Hello again. We are live from the LinkedIn Hub on day 3 of Advertising Week, and I am sitting with Lori Hiltz, who is the CEO of Havas Media. Lori, we were chit-chatting a little bit, and you were telling me about kind of the business now is becoming so blurred, and there's a lot of overlap. And you're kind of, well, first of all, you've got a bit of history in this business, so you can really see what's been happening and the trends and the changes. But you're sitting kind of in an interesting place, kind of almost an intersection of a lot of different elements. So I want to start by talking about that.
Well, first of all, good morning, Maha.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me today. The days start very early and go very long, so
Yeah, they do.
I'm glad we're starting while we're fresh. But you know, I've been in the business long enough to tell you that it's been somewhat of an evolution, and I think we're really at a crossroads right now where we're in a revolution. And part of that is that the traditional, what I would call platforms and boundaries, were very definitive and very safe. And now there's this just kind of a huge blur of what's happening within capabilities and strengths, and I see that it's you know, starting to rock a little bit, and it's exciting, incredibly exciting right now.
Mm-hmm. So as someone who has seen this all, you know, all the development, what are your thoughts on some of the newest trends and the newest things happening? I mean, did you freak out when digital happened, and then now with mobile, and mobile is just growing, and it's changed everything. It's such a different platform.
Yeah, you know, I really think, I still contend that the hardest struggle right now in our business not necessarily is within the channels, right? But really more so within the content, and how does content become a intimate form of currency for consumers, because they're telling us what they want and what they don't want. And it's not just necessarily in what I would call the pure programs or the pure, what I would call long-form video, what have you, but it is like basically the entire equation of communication and messaging, which is, to me, more important than anything at this point. Mm-hmm. And obviously, media, we're at the cross-section of all that, which is exciting.
So before we go back to the media thing, I want to talk about the content element for a second, because one thing that's come up, you know, a catchphrase that's come up quite a bit is custom content.
Yes.
You know, more people are absolutely convinced that that is the direction we need to go in, and yet so many people aren't really executing that effectively, strategy-wise. You know, and then I've spoken to people who are like, you know, it's all about short form. You've got to get the message there quick, and you got to do it well. Other people are like, it doesn't matter if it's long or short, it matters that it's very relevant and very personal and has an emotional connection. So what are your thoughts on that when it comes to content?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think it has to have some form of sincerity, and within that sincerity, then you basically create this dialogue. And you know, you watch marketers kind of come in and out of the market based upon whatever reactions are going on, but you know, once you start a dialogue with somebody, no matter what channel, right, it is about the sincerity of the messaging and the sincerity of, I would call, the actions, and the follow-through. Yeah. And consumers are getting really smart right now, right? Yeah. They're actually showing us and telling us what they want, what they don't want. And you know, I do think, because content now can come from any source and can be aggregated anywhere throughout the ecosystem here, it's really an exciting time, because there are multiple points of view on how does that conversation actually look, and how does it actually get executed. So sincerity more than anything.
Yeah, I think that touches very much on something we've spoken about so much, which is authenticity, and how audiences, especially younger audiences, have a real keen sense for when something is authentic, when a brand is really conveying its values, its beliefs, versus when they're kind of just trying to get them to buy something.
Well, I mean, it's ironic we're sitting in the LinkedIn hub right here, because there isn't a better form of validity and sincerity than your LinkedIn profile, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that is your common currency. And to me, if brands took kind of that pledge of how you attack the content that goes on your page, right? Think about that in your profile. Think if brands actually worked through that same sincerity and that same validity and truth, it would be kind of a different conversation, I think.
I think so. You're probably right. Okay, so you were saying, you know, you kind of sit in an interesting place, media. It's an interesting little center of many things going out. And I know that one of the things you are talking about later, which is a big concern, is this cross-measurement.
Yes.
Used to be we measure things in one way, you know, very straightforward, and now there are so many more challenges.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So if you think about the multitude of opportunities that brands have to get their messages out, we use different currencies across all those channels to measure, to validate, and basically, to be fair, to optimize. So when you have, I would call, a different set of variables across each channel, there's no way to actually cume and understand the pure behavior. And it's frustrating not just for marketers and advertisers, but think about the content providers to understand how that really plays into all of this. I think, with the announcement yesterday, with the whole ComScore initiative, I really believe it's a great point for us as an industry. And I think you're going to hear a lot about it the remainder of Ad Week, about kind of that buzz and what's been happening with that.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of buzz and trends and so on, what do you think are some of the big media trends that you're predicting? What do you think we're going to see in the next year or so, or in 2016?
Oh wow! I still contend that there's what I would call the Kardashian craze that's going to continue on. I mean, look at they're brilliant enough to have gone and created their own channels and bypassed what I would call the traditional route of distribution. So brands with that kind of power are going to continue to find ways to reach the consumer directly and in a much more intimate way. So I believe the path to purchase is going to continue to change. I still contend the burden on content development is going to be enormous for marketers, and I'm talking about vaults of content, right? Reams of content. So you can continue this dialogue, and that trend's going to continue, and there's an expense side to all of that still kind of has to be figured out for us as marketers and advertisers.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think, anything in its infancy, there's still so much figuring out to do.
Yes.
So how do you think that's all going to play out? Are people really going to start figuring out the expense side, the financial side?
I think there are a multitude of models that exist right now, and at Havas, I will tell you that there are an enormous amount of ways for content to be developed across what I would call internal partners and external partners. But our belief of sitting media and content and creative development side by side allows for somewhat of a flawless experience as you go into very, very tightly wound optimization of messaging and communication. There must be that pure interaction, that pure integration. Mm-hmm. So.
We'll see, Lori.
We'll see, exactly.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
Enjoy the rest
Mara,
of
thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.